Okay, we're live. This is Senate Appropriations. It's February 27th. We're going over the fiscal year 26 budget request. Today we have Dale, and we'll let you introduce yourself for the record.
Great. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Jill Bowen. I'm the commissioner for Dale. And with me is
Angela Smith-Jang, Deputy Commissioner.
Bill Callahan, Finance Director for Dale.
Jennifer Garabedian, Developmental Disability Services Division Director for Dale. Rebecca Silvernagle, Principal Assistant at Dale.
on the screen. We have Jess. Jess.
I'm Jessica Bernard, Deputy Director of Payment Reform.
Thank you, Stuart.
And Stuart Scher, General Counsel.
And I always like to introduce Rebecca's puppy.
Yeah.
That's Lucy.
Looks like she's wearing a shawl.
Is that an English setter?
She's a golden retriever, and she's wearing a fake fur.
Oh, she is wearing a skull. I was like, it looks like she's wearing a.
Is she an older dog with a white face?
She's older now. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there are some
I say
Goldens that
puppy.
are cream colored now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're almost white now.
And she's a very important member of the team. She will answer questions nobody else can,
Right.
especially if you're barking up.
I bet. Good part. Okay.
Okay. I'll begin with some narrative. The Department of Disabilities, Aging, and Independent Living, Dale, is responsible for managing services for older Vermonters and Vermonters of all ages with disabilities. Codified under 33 VSA Chapter 5 of Vermont's Human Services Statute. Our mission is to make Vermont the best state in which to grow old or live with a disability with dignity, respect, and independence, and that guides the delivery of all of our services. Vermont remains a leader in supporting self-determination, choice, expansion of community-based options, the development of robust supported employment, mature worker options, and life-saving protective services. So it's pretty wide-ranging.
So we're not the best state now, is that what you're saying?
Getting there.
Do we know?
With your
Do we
help.
know what which state is the best?
Well, we ranked third for older Vermonters in a national survey, and in many of the subsections, we were first. We're one of 5 with a multi-year, multi-sector H-Strong plan. So there's a lot that puts us in, a good light. Also, our developmental services designated agency system is a unique one, in our focus and our 1115 waiver and our focus and our efforts on self-determination choice is, in some ways uniquely Vermont. So I came from New York. I'm here less than a year. So again, going through my first round here.
Yeah.
From New York City and from Philadelphia. So the uniqueness of Vermont, the things that are special about it really pop for me. So sharing that with you.
But in all seriousness, it would be good to see those studies that rank us as high for growing older, because I get emails from constituents showing that because of our tax structure, that it's like one of the worst states to retire.
Well, not number one in everything. But
well,
yes.
Even if by different, because you can cut it different ways, but maybe for healthcare we're doing really well, but maybe in comparison to how we tax Social Security, we might be different. So it'd be good to look. If you have anything like that, I'd like to see.
Sure. And we are, all of the issues that are probably coming to you from constituents are incorporated into the H-Strong plan, the objectives, the goals, because that came from the folks, so in 10 years, we'll have it all solved, but along the way, we hope to make some really good progress.
Great.
So I'm just going to be hitting on high points here.
We have a hard stop at 3.
And we'll go fast. So I'm going to give you some department highlights. There are, 30 some odd pages of pieces about the department that I will skip. So we'll get there, okay? So we do have 5 divisions: the Adult Services Division, the Division for Blind and Visually Impaired, the Developmental Disability Services Division, the Division of Licensing and Protection, and the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, now doing business as Higher Ability. Some accomplishments, the Age Strong Vermont Plan, which I just highlighted for you, just completed its year 1 of 10 years of implementation, and there's a year 1 progress report. It's available online. You'll also find online goal tracker so that people can, the community, public can keep track of the progress of Age Strong. And there's an interactive community services binder map to make it easier to find the services that are available in different communities across the state. Another accomplishment is our work with partners on developmental disability services supported housing, and one of the pilots opened its doors. It's Riverflow. Riverflow Inc. is an intentional supported housing community. It's in Moncton, and it was born out of the Act 186 pilot grants from 2022. And there are 4 individuals with complex challenges with developmental disabilities living in quite a lovely setting.
And now, is that Riverflow property? Are they talking about building another house on that same property?
More than one. Yeah, they have a plan. They have the land in addition to this is all of the pilot programs are public-private partnerships in terms of the funding, and they have the land and this incredibly gorgeous house, but they also are pointing out to me, here's where we're going to do the next one. And then, yes.
Great.
The Pathways to Partnership Grant, what we call P2P, is a U.S. Department of Education Rehabilitation Services Administration. We were selected to be one of 20 Disability Innovation Fund grant awards, and the goal of P2P is to create stronger transitional plans for students with disabilities through partnerships with schools, community agencies. It's basically creating new opportunities and access to self-advocacy trainings, independent living workshops, peer-to-peer mentorships, employee and career counseling. So this is happening in high school. The direct care workforce. There's a multi-pronged approach to addressing the difficulty the direct care workforce we're experiencing, not just us across the country, but it is significant here. Mm-hmm. And the vacancy rate and the challenges recruiting and retaining direct care workforce. So we were chosen as one of 14 states to participate in the State Peer Learning Collaborative. And there's much that comes from that in terms of learning best practices across the state. But also we will be launching a direct care worker registry platform. We are also getting ready to put out a campaign, a recruitment campaign, multimedia recruitment campaign that you'll shortly see. We also opened up Mission Care at Bennington, the first of its type, a complex care nursing home that has the skills to be able to bring folks into the nursing home to meet those criteria, who otherwise many of whom were sort of languishing in hospitals as kind of boarders for hundreds and hundreds of days. And they've been bringing those folks in, and the hospitals have been saying it's making a difference for them. Rutland's intensive care was able to reopen because of the movement. So there's some really good outcomes so far. Developmental Disability Services has a policy update, which is what's called being able to pay legally responsible individuals, but what we call paying parents, and it allows them to pay to provide community and or in-home supports to adults who are engaged in the home community-based services. The Higher Ability Opioid Employment Pilot to help address the large number of people in recovery who are not employed, which is pretty high rates, like 60 or over 60% of those in recovery are not employed, and they were able to get the opioid settlement dollars to expand the pilot. It's currently in Burlington and Newport, and it's being expanded now to Rutland because of the opioid settlement dollars. We also have an Adult Day Startup Grant that initiated at the end of 2024 to Central Vermont Counseling on Aging, and why I'm highlighting that is because it's designing a new multi-generational adult day center and child care center in central Vermont, which we know is a win-win.
Yeah.
The money for that was initiated in this room.
Thank you. Thank you, because it's very exciting and I really can't wait. We will go together for the ribbon cutting. Home delivered meals, so there was an enhancement of our ability to provide home delivered meals through the global commitment investment, which was provided in addition to the OAA dollars. We'll just jump through a few of these. Payment reform, the developmental services payment project is now in its implementation phase. That has been 6 years in the coming. Working with DEVR, the contractors, partners, including family members, individuals, and providers to finalize the model. And that is moving forward with standardization of assessments and rate methodology due to go live in October. The nursing facility rates will be this year. We will be in the coming year. There will be the nursing rate increase that is part of the new stabilization approach that has made a difference. So far, the last time that it's every 2 years, there was limited help last year, but we expect significant more stabilization from this year's coming stabilization. We can talk more about that if you want. The one proposal that Dale has this year is the mandatory federal conflict-free case management. We are required, it's been a multi-year project to comply with mandatory federal regulations requiring conflict-free case management in home and community-based services. Vermont is virtually the last state to implement the federal requirements. The project's well documented. It's available to the public on the dedicated agency webpage. An RFP for the conflict, for the case management entities that would be, is under procurement, and we are in contract negotiation currently and expect by April 1st to have the contracts finalized. And we have a conflict-free case management implementation date of October 1st. Choices for Care is already actively transitioning to case management services through the AAAs. The included in the state fiscal year 26 governor's AHS budget is a request for $8.6 million of global commitment to cover the cost of conflict-free case management. That includes case management vendor costs, DDS broker services, third party for eligibility determination, two data analyst positions, and 3 adult services quality management positions. So now I'm going to pass by the 30 pages. Okay, and just highlight with a couple of numbers for you to give you a little quantitative along with the qualitative.
Are you moving to a certain page?
I am no, because I have a summary. It's a really brief summary instead. Okay. But it's all there in extreme detail that you can.
Right, we were handed all this from the HS.
Well, you'll have that, but this is a summary of some highlights of who we served. So in the adult services division, again, that's the division that serves older Vermonters as well as the adults with disabilities, physical disabilities, and so about 49,000 people received a range of Older Americans Act services. About 9,000 people received home delivered meals. About 7,000 received choices for care services across all settings. 5,000 received SASH services, and about 400 participated in adult day programs. For developmental services division, supporting people with developmental and intellectual disabilities, more than 3,000 were served in home and community-based services, more than 1,000 served by flexible family funding, about 650 served by family managed respite, about 500 people served in the bridge program, about 800 served by the Office of the Public Guardian. And over 300 people served through the Office of Public Guardian around representative payee services. Our division for the blind and visually impaired, over 1,000 were served through a variety of programs to meet employment and independence goals for people with who are blind or visually impaired, and over 2,000 hours of training for the Learn, Earn, and Prosper program, which serves blind and visually impaired youth. Licensing and protection is broken into two branches, survey and certification, and that is the state survey agency for Vermont. License and certifies healthcare organizations, make sure they are meeting minimum state and federal regulatory compliance. And then there's the Adult Protective Services, which investigates allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation of vulnerable adults. The survey and certification conducted more than 300 investigations, resulting from nearly 500 complaints and self-reports across the state. Also, Adult Protective Services received nearly 4,000 reports alleging abuse, neglect, or exploitation of vulnerable adults, and completed approximately 400 investigations and 400 assessments. The combination of investigations and assessments exceeds last year's investigations alone. And Hireability is the division of vocational rehabilitation, and the mission is to help Vermonters with disabilities prepare for, obtain, and maintain meaningful careers, and also to help employers, which has particularly been important in the past year, to recruit, train, and retain employees with disabilities. And it's a nice way to match what employers need and make sure that they have the skill set to fill those holes. Nearly 7,000 individuals were served this past year through the connections with employment, and nearly 1,600 high school students were served in pre-employment transition services. So that's our recent successes. I mentioned many of them, so I will not repeat that. And spoke about Age Strong Vermont, the conflict-free case management, and the developmental services payment reform, and those are our three big items for the coming year. Now I'm on money. So this should start to align with your ups and downs that you're referencing. First, I will tell you that for state fiscal year 2026, the total Dale proposed budget is $783,521,821. That general fund accounts for 4.6% of that, global commitment 88.8%, federal funds is 6.2%, and special and interdepartmental funds less than 1%. By division, the Developmental Disability Services Division represents 45% of our total budget at $353 million. The Adult Services Division, and most of that, 97% of that is global commitment. The Adult Services Division represents 48% of Dale's total budget at $379 million. 93% of that is global commitment. 4% of it is federal other, which is the Older Americans Act primarily. Vocational rehabilitation is $32 million. 23% of that is general fund. 77% is federal or other. Blind and visually impaired is about $6 million. 18% is general fund. 77% is federal or other. That's the pathway to partnerships, P2P I mentioned. Licensing and protection represents approximately 1% of Dale's total budget. 51% is general fund, and 49% is federal other. And then there's the Commissioner's Office, approximately 1% at just under $7 million, 78% of which is general fund, and 20% is federal other. And that adds up to the $783,521,821, which is 100% of our total budget. The summary of changes from last year. So the total change from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 in the recommended budget is $65,443,883.
Do you know what that percent? Looks like
Do you know the percent change?
over 5%.
Yes.
The jail administration and support section of that in 2025, the base appropriation for that was $51,690,535. And the proposed changes include 2.5 million for the salary and fringe and internal service funds net increase. It also includes 1.3 million of the conflict-free case management 8.6 in 5 new positions, and also the estimated eligibility determination contractor costs. The total changes for the jail administration and support is 3.8 million.
So overall, you're above the governor's 3% by a couple percentage points, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the conflict-free case management is the 8.6 million. That's, you'll see that that comes up in different ways to add up in each of the subgroups. So the difference between 25 and 26 for fiscal, for the administration portion of it is a difference between 51.7 million versus 55.5 million. Now, if I move to the adult services division grants, the proposed change, which in fiscal year 25 was 24.6 million, and this year it's 24.7 million. So the difference there is 169,294 for the ASME collective bargaining agreement. For the blind and visually impaired grants, the 25 base appropriation was 1.9 million. The recommended for fiscal year 26 is 3.4 million, and that is mostly due to the Pathways to Partnership grant at 1.5 million. The vocational rehabilitation division, hireability, it is no change from last year. It's just a budget neutral fund transfer of a grant from a grant section to administration section within the grant as per the grantee's request.
Yeah, I could just explain. If you looked at the ups and downs, we have a decrease of general fund in their grants and an increase in federal. And then in VR's admin, it's the reverse, up and down with those two funds. And we needed to do that related to a federal agency audit, and just the way we use general fund or federal funds related to direct services versus admin. So net zero change to the division.
Yeah, it's just a swap.
Okay.
Be in alignment with what they require. The developmental services grants appropriation fiscal year 25 was 329,299,000, and this year is 343,592. 343,592,853. So the total change is 14.3 million. The federal mandate, conflict-free case management, you see it here again. This is 5.8 million of that 8.6. The DS caseload, including high school graduates, is 5.4 million. The DS public safety and Act 248 caseload is up for $1 million there. The budget to actual alignment is actually a return of funds because essentially we had in the budget for folks who didn't actually use a whole year's worth because it came in somewhere later in the year, and that's what accounts for that.
What is Act 248?
Act 248 is when a person with intellectual disabilities is found not fit to proceed with their case, and they're committed to the custody of the petitioner.
Yeah, right.
You're familiar with that, okay. On number 5, which is commercial policy workers' comp premium decrease, they got a better deal. And Ask Me collective bargaining agreement is an increase of 1.8, which came out to a total change for developmental services, as I said, of 14.3 million. The brain injury program, in 2025, the base appropriation was 6.8 million. This year, 7.4 million is requested. Utilization increase is 350,000. The federal mandate, again, this conflict-free case management applies to brain injury as well, at 183,000, and the Ask Me collective bargaining agreement. Now we go down to choices for care, which includes estimated expenditures for nursing homes, home and community-based services, and other Medicaid acute primary care costs for choices of care participants. In 2025, it was 293,600,000, and recommended this year is 338,700,000, rounding up there. The statutory nursing home inflationary increase is 15,363,423. This is including the nursing rebase that's broken out for you. 11.9 for the nursing rebase and 3.457 for the inflationary increase. The nursing home bed day utilization and adjustment pressure is 24.5 million. The federal mandate here for conflict-free case management is 1.3 million. And then there's the veterans home projected cost settlement. Our portion is approximately 4 million, and the total change is 45.1 million.
So
That's
do we think, because we've rebased and we're readjusting the rates for the nursing homes, do we think this is going to alleviate some of the problems that we're having?
yes, we do think that it will help stabilize and will alleviate some of the problems that we're having. Every 2 years, the last year that it was done 2 years ago, they always base it, it's always a lag, so they based it on 2021 year. So 2021 versus 2023.
Yeah, we updated here, I get that. Where do we think we're gonna end up in this, and how much of the one-time monies that we've been putting in for 3 years now, at least 3 years?
The EFRs you're talking about?
Yeah.
So we do think that this will result in fewer or less EFR. I can't tell you that it would be 0 EFRs, there's still a lot, right? Okay.
This year it's over half
Mhm.
of all the nursing homes, so
Right.
where do we think we're headed?
So we think the rebase will make a difference. It won't solve everything, but it should stabilize, because the 23 years based on is closer to reality. But each nursing home is a little bit different than the other, so some will still struggle. But we do think that rebase will have a stabilizing effect. Where we are also in terms of utilization is that it was down quite a bit in recent years, of course, due to the pandemic, and money actually came out of the system at that time. It did come back up to pre-pandemic levels, and maybe going up a little bit more. We have to pay attention to the demographics, but it does seem to have leveled off to some degree. So
I'm gonna have to interrupt you there, because I have to go to a conference committee.
I'm on my list. That was my last page, so I can have.
And you guys can talk about it. Yeah.
This is my section of the budget, and we've got to sit down. I get all that we did put money also in for staffing to encourage the nursing homes with to get more nurses, because the estimates we had were $62 million worth of the whole in nursing was traveling nurses. So we'll have to have some conversation.
That's exactly right. The
Yeah.
LNAs are still struggling, and as you know, then that nursing homes rely on the LNAs.